Have you ever caught a fleeting scent on the breeze, perhaps the aroma of rain on warm pavement, or the sweet perfume of a flower from long ago, and found yourself instantly transported? A single note from a forgotten melody, the taste of a dish from your childhood, and suddenly, you are no longer here. You have been pulled through a vortex in time, a sacred doorway opened by your senses, into a moment that feels more real, more vibrant than the present. This is not mere recollection. This is a profound spiritual echo, a call from a past version of your soul, reminding you of a frequency you once held. If you have ever felt this powerful, haunting pull of the past, know that you are not alone. It is a sign of a deep and sensitive spirit. Share your recognition in the comments below, perhaps with a simple, "I feel this," so that others on this path may know they are in good company. And if this message resonates, consider liking and subscribing, joining our community of souls who are navigating the beautiful and complex journey of awakening. There are memories we consciously summon, those we retrieve through deliberate effort, like pulling treasured volumes from the vast library of our mind. We search the shelves for a specific event, a piece of knowledge, a face. This is the work of the intellect, a structured and orderly process. But then, there are the other memories, the sacred whispers that ambush us when we least expect it. These are not summoned, they arrive. A taste, a scent, the unique softness of an old fabric against your skin, and suddenly, the world around you dissolves. We are not here anymore. We have fallen through a shimmering crack in the fabric of chronological time, transported by an unseen force. This is what wise souls have called the soul's memory, a profound and divine phenomenon. In these moments, it is as if a dormant part of our spirit is suddenly awakened, called forth by a vibrational key. These sensory triggers are not random, they are sacred keys that unlock doors to past energetic states, to versions of ourselves we thought were long gone. They are proof that our existence is not merely a linear progression, but a magnificent, multi-layered tapestry of experiences, emotions, and energies, all coexisting within our being. When such a memory rushes back, it's a powerful validation that every moment we have lived, every feeling we have felt, has left an indelible imprint on our soul, an energetic signature that can be revisited and felt with breathtaking clarity. It is a testament to the enduring power of human experience, a central force that shapes our spiritual existence from the hidden depths of our subconscious. This experience, this sudden immersion in the waters of the past, is not just a poetic curiosity. It is a profound philosophical and spiritual declaration. It reveals a deep truth about our relationship with time and the very nature of our reality. The famous story of the Madeleine cake dipped in tea, which unlocked a flood of childhood memories for a great writer, is more than a literary device. It is a sacred teaching. It declares that the past is never truly gone. It does not die or fade into nothingness. Instead, it sleeps within us, a vast and potent realm of energy, emotion, and wisdom, patiently waiting. It waits to be awakened by the most ordinary of triggers, a sunbeam hitting the floor at a certain angle, the distant sound of a train, the taste of a simple cookie. These are the humble messengers that carry the power to resurrect entire worlds within us. But in this sacred power, there lies a subtle and haunting danger. For the moment, the past re-enters our consciousness so vividly, it does more than just complement the present, it competes with it. An invisible contest begins, a struggle for our attention, our emotional energy, our very sense of self. And all too often, in this silent battle, the past wins. In this invisible contest for the soul's focus, the present can begin to feel pale and insufficient, a washed-out photograph compared to the vibrant, full-color cinema of our memories. The past, in its resurrected form, becomes a vivid, enchanting realm, a lost Eden we long to return to, even if that Eden never truly existed as our romanticized memory now presents it. We find ourselves yearning for a time that has been polished by the soft erosion of pain and burnished to a golden sheen by longing. This deep obsession with memory reveals something deeply uncomfortable, a spiritual paradox about the way we experience the river of time. The chronological time of our world, The relentless ticking of clocks, the turning pages of calendars, the pressure of deadlines is a shallow stream compared to the deep, powerful currents of what can be called our inner time. This is the time of the soul, the time of emotion, of profound recollection. When a memory involuntarily returns, it doesn't politely ask for permission. It bypasses the gatekeeper of logic and reason. It surges up from the deepest parts of our being, cutting straight into our emotional core, carrying with it a weight, a gravity that can be overwhelming. And that emotional weight can anchor us so heavily in the waters of yesterday that the present moment, with all its potential for new life and creation, barely registers. We find ourselves not just remembering a moment, but completely reliving it. The danger truly begins when we stop living in the world that is actually around us and start taking up permanent residence in those resurrected, ghost-like fragments of yesterday. This is not nostalgia in the usual sentimental sense. This is a form of emotional occupation. We become colonized by our own history. This colonization happens not through conscious reflection and the integration of wisdom, but through the seductive, almost hypnotic power of moments that resurface uninvited. Moments that are coated in a thick lacquer of longing and seem magically resistant to the decay of time. What makes this involuntary memory so spiritually perilous is its profound intimacy. It doesn't just remind us of the past. It offers us a portal, a promise of return. It whispers a tantalizing invitation, a chance to be someone we once were, to feel something we once felt. And in a world where the present is often marked by uncertainty, by monotonous routine, or by the dull ache of repetition, that promise of return becomes dangerously addictive. Why struggle with the messy, unpredictable reality of what is in front of you when a memory offers the immediate, guaranteed richness of what was? This seduction is powerful because our inner world often prefers the known intensity of what was over, the frightening ambiguity of what is. And so, we may begin to unconsciously curate our lives around these returns. We seek out the old songs, revisit the familiar places, chase the long-lost sensations. We do this not to enrich the present with the wisdom of the past, but to escape the present altogether. And this is where the spiritual spiral deepens. We begin to live not to create new, vibrant moments, but to endlessly echo old ones. We start chasing a lost time instead of fully inhabiting the only time that is truly real, the sacred now. Slowly, without us even noticing, our very identity begins to erode. It dissolves into a mosaic of memories, and our capacity for presence, for true, raw, unfiltered presence, begins to vanish. We must understand a fundamental spiritual truth. Memory is not absolute truth. It is an act of creation. The past we return to in our minds is never the past that actually was. It is a version, a story shaped by our current feelings, edited by our deepest longings, and smoothed over by the soft, forgiving erosion of time and pain. Involuntary memory gives us the past, yes, but not to guide us as a compass, but often only to seduce us as a siren. And if we are not careful, if we are not awake and aware, we become prisoners of our own subconscious time machine. The tyranny of this prison is subtle, almost beautiful in its deception. We think we are reconnecting with who we truly were, but in reality, we are disconnecting from who we are divinely destined to become. The Madeleine, the tea, the music, the quality of light these triggers become more than just keys to memory. They become symbols of our self-imposed exile. We are here, in this body, in this moment, but we are not fully present. The room we sit in is less vivid than the one that exists inside our mind. And so, we must ask ourselves a critical question for our soul's evolution. If the past arrives without invitation, are we obligated to welcome it and let it take over our house? Or is there a higher wisdom in acknowledging its visit, and then letting it pass through us gently, without it settling in and rearranging the furniture of our present moment? Can we remain rooted in the only time that truly belongs to us, the sacred power of now? Nostalgia becomes a museum in which we choose to live, surrounded by carefully curated relics of how things used to be and, perhaps more dangerously, of how we wish they had been. And while we stand admiring the display, life itself, in all its unscripted glory, passes silently by outside the window. This is not an attack on memory itself. It is an interrogation of the immense weight we give it. The more meaning and importance we assign to past experiences, the more we burden our present selves with them. We don't just carry memories, we carry their interpretations, their emotional residues, their unfinished conversations. And slowly, the past becomes not just a backdrop to our lives, but the very stage we refuse to leave. Nostalgia, then, is not a gentle longing. It is a paralysis disguised as sentiment. It persuades us that there was a before that was truer, simpler, more meaningful. And once we accept that idea, the present automatically loses its legitimacy. We stop trying to build significance now because we are too busy preserving what once was. This is why nostalgia is so dangerous, because it is seductive. It flatters us, comforts us, and gives us the illusion of continuity and meaning. But in doing so, it demands a terrible price: the abandonment of the present as a living, breathing space for creation. What's most unsettling in this reflection is that nostalgia doesn't just distort our perception of time, it distorts our very identity. When we indulge in it, we're not simply recalling events. We are actively reaffirming an old self, a self we've possibly outgrown but are too afraid to release. It's easier to admire who we were in a distant, sunlit summer than to face the ambiguity and challenge of who we are becoming right now. Nostalgia gives us that clarity we crave, but it's a false clarity, built not on truth but on selective memory. And so we begin to edit not only our past, but also our present, shaping it to conform to a narrative that keeps us comfortable but small. This forces us to ask a painful but vital question. Are we building a life, or are we simply maintaining an illusion of one? And if we are truly honest with ourselves, we might find that much of what we call remembering is actually an act of resisting. Resisting the passage of time, resisting change, resisting the very essence of life, which is divine motion. The tragedy of nostalgia is that it offers the illusion of emotional depth while keeping us emotionally shallow. It asks for no risk, no action, no engagement, only passive contemplation. And while it may feel profound to dwell in what once was, it is ultimately a retreat. The past, seen in this light, is not a wellspring of life, but a beautiful trap. It is one we willingly walk into, comforted by familiarity, sedated by emotional echoes. And yet, those echoes can never become music again. The real challenge, the true philosophical and spiritual task, is not to remember less, but to remember without surrender. It is to let the past inform us without possessing us. Nostalgia is not inherently evil, but it becomes toxic when it replaces vision with longing. We are being invited to reclaim our present, not by rejecting our memories, but by refusing to let them monopolize our attention. The world we once lived in is gone. The question is, will we choose to live fully in this one? Who are we really when we strip away the titles, the roles, and even the beliefs we hold so dear? We are left with something far more elusive, a self that is built in large part by memory. What we have lived becomes the blueprint for who we think we are. But this foundation, though it seems so solid, is made of fragile recollections, of biased stories and emotional snapshots that are often incomplete. The danger emerges when we stop treating memory as a source of insight and start treating it as identity itself. I am the person who went through this. I was happy back then. That version of me was the real me. These are not just reflections, they are declarations, and they begin to calcify our sense of self. We carry old pain like it's proof of our depth. We wear past achievements like armor. Slowly, we cease becoming and start preserving. The self becomes a museum, and we become its reluctant curators. Great spiritual thinkers, in their own unique ways, both warn us of this dangerous fixation. One shows how memory invades us, shaping how we feel and act, often without our conscious consent. The other shows how nostalgia turns this memory into an identity performance, a way of avoiding the divine discomfort of reinvention. When we cling to the narrative of who we were, We quietly reject the uncertainty of becoming someone new. And yet, growth and awakening can only happen in that very uncertainty. There is a tragic irony in being so loyal to our former selves that we deny the person who is emerging now. We end up living in reference to an outdated version of ourselves, constantly comparing every current feeling to a past one, every new decision to a former ideal. Our identity becomes stagnant, not because we lack potential, but because we are too attached to our own history to allow for divine transformation. Memory was meant to guide us, not define us. But there is a subtler, more haunting layer here, one that affects many of us without our even realizing it. The person we remember ourselves to be is rarely accurate. Our internal biography is a crafted narrative, polished over time, edited for coherence, drama, and meaning. We highlight some moments, erase others, and call it truth. And then we become beholden to it. The story of who we were begins to dictate who we believe we can be. I used to be passionate. I was once fearless. That was the real me. These phrases sound harmless, but they carry the heavy weight of expectation not from others, but from ourselves. We begin performing to meet the standards of our own memory. We chase our former confidence, our earlier joy, as if they were external objects we could recapture, rather than evolving states of being. This creates an invisible prison, one not built by trauma or failure, but by our unwillingness to rewrite ourselves. The freedom we seek often hides behind the self we refuse to let go of. Identity, when fused too tightly with memory, becomes a kind of spiritual death, a stillness where motion and life once thrived. The self, in its truest form, is not a fossil to be preserved. It is a process, a divine unfolding, shaped not just by what happened, but by what we dare to imagine next. To break free from this loop, we must question the emotional safety we find in clinging to old versions of ourselves. We must be willing to disappoint our own past, to evolve beyond its expectations. Memory can be a lighthouse, but it can also be a leash. And sometimes, the most courageous spiritual act is not remembering who we were, but allowing that memory to fade, so that something else, something unknown, can emerge in its place. The self isn't something we find, it's something we build. And sometimes, to build anew, we have to demolish parts of the old structure. Memory is not a recording, it is a reconstruction. Every time we recall a moment, we reshape it, ever so slightly. A word is forgotten, a feeling is exaggerated, a flaw is smoothed out. Over time, these subtle edits accumulate, until what we remember is no longer what happened, but what we needed it to be. Both Proust and Kundera were intimately aware of this phenomenon. They didn't trust memory as a window to truth. They treated it as a mirror, reflecting not reality, but desire. This is why the past so often feels golden in comparison to the present. It's not because life was truly better. It's because the version we've preserved has been purified of its dullness, its chaos, its discomforts. We keep the glow and discard the shadows. The result? We end up comparing a romanticized memory to a raw and unfiltered now. And of course, reality can never win that contest. The mind is not just forgetful, it is selective in its loyalty. Pain fades or is reframed. Joy, on the other hand, is often inflated, given a symbolic weight it may not have had in the moment itself. We turn casual afternoons into sacred memories. We elevate old relationships into myths. We give past versions of ourselves a kind of innocence or clarity that likely never existed. And this illusion, however comforting, is treacherous. Because when we begin to believe that the best parts of life are behind us, we unconsciously stop looking for beauty in what surrounds us now. It's not that life has lost its brilliance, it's that our perception has been hijacked by a curated past. Like a photograph edited beyond recognition, our memories can become dangerous art, pleasing to the eye but distorting the truth. What's more, the illusion of a better past doesn't just affect how we see the world, it affects how we act in it. We begin to make decisions based on longing rather than clarity. We avoid risks because nothing seems worth disrupting the memory of how things used to be. We find ourselves paralyzed by comparison. unable to fully invest in the present because we have internalized the belief that it can never measure up. This mindset is not harmless nostalgia. It is psychological sabotage. The more we idolize the past, the more we undercut our capacity to evolve. Life becomes a loop, not of events, but of emotional references. We stop growing not because we lack opportunity, but because we believe growth can't possibly deliver the same feeling as recollection. But that is the trap. Memory doesn't ask us to participate, it only asks us to observe. And so we watch our lives from a distance, instead of stepping into them fully. To escape this illusion, we have to confront something painful. The past we cling to never existed in the way we remember it. It was messier, quieter, more uncertain. We've turned it into a fiction because it serves a need to feel grounded, to feel safe, to feel like we once had control. But we cannot afford to let that fiction become our compass. The truth is, memory lies, not maliciously, but instinctively, bending itself around the contours of our longing. The more we chase those idealized moments, the more estranged we become from reality. And so the challenge is not to forget the past, but to deflate it, to strip it of its illusions, to see it not as better but simply as gone. And to recognize that meaning isn't something we recover but something we make, here, now, imperfect, yes, but real. There comes a point when we must ask ourselves, what is the past really for? Is it a place to dwell in, or a place to learn from? Both great thinkers, in their own ways, suggest that the past should not be a destination, but a passage, a whisper, not a script. The true art is not in forgetting the past, but in holding it lightly. The past must be honored, not inhabited. To break free from its grip is not an act of betrayal, but of courage. It means choosing to face the present without the safety net of nostalgia, without the armor of an identity built on old moments. It means stepping out of the museum of memory and into the raw, unpredictable terrain of what comes next. And that is terrifying, but also profoundly alive. Because the present, though uncertain, is the only space where transformation is possible. This freedom begins when we shift our relationship with memory from possession to presence. We don't need to erase the past. We need to let it breathe without suffocating the now. One way to do that is by noticing when a memory is acting as a lens rather than a light. Are we using it to illuminate something real, or to color it into something it's not? Are we invoking the past to connect or to retreat? Living with memory doesn't mean being loyal to it. It means recognizing that it's one part of a larger inner landscape, not the entire territory. Just as a sailboat needs the memory of wind to move forward, it cannot move at all if it stays anchored. The past can be that wind, but it must never be the anchor. The key is discernment. Knowing when a memory is guiding us and when it is holding us hostage. What does it look like, then, to live fully in the present while carrying the past with dignity? It looks like returning to the same song that once healed you, not to relive the pain, but to see how far you have come. It looks like remembering a version of yourself, not with yearning, but with gentleness. It looks like holding space for the beauty of what was, without demanding that today look or feel the same. To live like this is to reclaim authorship over your story. You are not just the result of past events. You are the narrator, the one who decides which parts become weight and which become wings. This shift requires honesty, patience, and a willingness to let go of the comfort that comes from living in an emotional rewind. But the reward is immense. Presence, vitality, and the possibility of meaning that isn't secondhand. In the end, the invitation is not to reject memory, but to reframe it. Let it be a source of depth, not a blueprint for repetition. Let it inspire growth, not prevent it. The past shaped you, yes, but it does not have to define you. There is more of you ahead than behind. And though nostalgia may still whisper, as it always does, you can choose how loudly it speaks. The final freedom is the ability to be here, now, without apology. To meet this moment, without comparing it to another. Life is not meant to be a rerun. It is meant to be lived forward, with the courage to forget just enough to be surprised again. To break free is to finally see that memory is not home. It is a map, and home is wherever your feet are standing. Maybe the most haunting thing about memory is not that it fades, but that it lingers, quietly, persistently. It clings to the corners of our days, shaping our moods, our choices, our fears. It disguises itself as identity, as meaning, as love, and yet, if we are not careful, it becomes a quiet thief, stealing not our past, but our present. But here's the truth we often forget. We are not obligated to live in yesterday's echo. The past may have carved deep rivers into our minds, but we are still the ones holding the oars. We are still allowed to choose not what happened, but what we do with what remains. There is nothing wrong with remembering, nothing shameful about longing. But we cannot let nostalgia become a lullaby that rocks us to sleep while life passes by. There is too much waiting here, in this moment, in this breath. And the only thing memory cannot give us is now. So maybe it's time not to forget, but to forgive the past for not being the present. To let go, not of the story, but of the need to keep repeating it. To walk forward, not because the past wasn't beautiful, but because we finally believe the future could be, too.